Kyle here from All Media Reviews. So I've done 699 videos per se. I don't know if some of them include the shorts or the live streams, but so for milestone number 700, I'm doing my top 50, basically in change of jazz, fusion, jazz rock, jazz related records of some sort. So you know, kind of a milestone. I don't know what I'll do for 800, 900, and 1,000. I'll have to come with that, but that would be kind of a unique deal. If I love jazz fusion specifically, it'd be neat to go through my top 50, you know, for my 700th video. But I can just briefly say with jazz in this list, it really comprises of like the family trees related, and a lot of jazz is like that with musicians playing with other musicians. It's a lot about collaborations and, you know, doing things, especially doing stuff live. But my taste in jazz is primarily jazz rock, jazz fusion, which is related to progressive rock. Although I knew jazz before that, I played trumpet in band, watched the Ken Burns documentary series and everything. I've always wanted to get more into like the history of jazz, but it's really been at this point, my taste is largely in fusion. And your usual suspects were your Mahavishnu orchestras, your Turner Forevers, Pat Metheny's, your Al Di Meolas, your Billy Cobhams. It's kind of a little bit of a homogenous list, but it's a list of 50 plus albums. I took a few liberties. Some of them are local bands, but so let's just go through it. I did a top 50 and top 80 something on Pub Meeple, so I think I'm gonna do like an honorable mentions after this. So okay, coming at number 50, I have the band Oregon, their album Out of the Woods from 1978. I saw them live once. I need to hear more of their stuff. It's not really fusion, though. It's more like chamber jazz, but a lot of featured like alto saxophone parts. And but anyway, great percussion. Great record from Oregon, Out of the Woods. Number 50. Number 49, Frank Zappa's Hot Rats. While Zappa was all over the place and was exploring rock music, this might be his closest overtly jazz fusion record in '69, so that was right at the birth of that stuff, of course. So, number 49. Number 48, Dixie Dregs. They're not the Dixie Dregs. They're Dixie Dregs. Their album Free Fall, which has the original from 1977. The original Cruise Control. It has a few other tracks on it. Just revisiting. I mean, the Dixie Dregs. I've always liked them. I saw them open for Dream Theater. But, you know, some of their stuff is kind of, it's the southern element, but they're not like bluegrass, which is weird. But I had my list here just a minute ago. Let me just see if I can find it. There was a couple other notable, and I got to get going here. I didn't make this as fast as possible, but when I redo the Albums of the Year series, I'm going to have to be including some Dixie Dregs in there. Refried Funky Chicken is the other kind of go-to on that. Anyway, Steve Morris's band, they had different bass players, Alan something, anyway, I know Rod Morgenstein was the drummer at one point, but I don't think he was at this point. Anyway, let me go back to my list here again. That's why. They had a different version of Cruise Control. Dream Theater covered that, actually, on, I want to say, on the big medley on Change of Seasons. But anyway, number 48. Number 47, Pancho Sanchez, Afro-Cuban Fantasy, which from 1998. While that album doesn't have Manteca, there's another record I like that I'll be talking about in the honorable mentions that does. It's, I'm a sucker for his piano arrangements, and it's probably his best record. I don't think I have a physical copy. I got it from the library years ago anyway. Number 47. Number 46, now I can finally start to show some physical copies. And I'm missing some physical copies that I had, and of course I've got some of them are incomplete, but Stanley Clarke's School Days, of course, probably the most well-known record among his solo catalogs, so the bass player from Return to Forever and many other projects. So number 46 from 1976, School Days. Number 45, I do have this. I do, yes. So Return to Forever, related to Stanley Clarke. Chick Corea's album Return to Forever, which included the services of his wife one time, I believe, Flora Purim. But Joe Farrell on flute. We didn't really have a lot of guitar. I don't know if it was any guitars. Mostly driven. It was Chick and Stanley the early Return to Forever, well, Chick Corea's became Return to Forever, but it was under his name. But yeah, has the title, the self-titled song, or the title track, of course, it's most well known. It's 12 minutes and 6 seconds, and the second side has Sometime Haga la Fiesta. So it's more Latin sounding, less electric, but still, it's Return to Forever and it's Chick Corea, and it's like the post sort of Miles Davis fusion material. So number 40, let's see, number 45. Number 44, all right. So, yeah, talk about, this is incomplete. I think it is incomplete, yes. Kinda Blue from Miles Davis. You know, this is the pre-fusion Miles Davis. I learned to play So What when I was in college. I had to memorize it. That was not easy. But that's the one that everyone knows best on this. But it's one of the most, if not the most famous jazz album of all time, actually. And it's rightfully so. It's kind of a classic, but it's not, it's post-bop, but it's Miles, and it's sort of, before he went into fusion, it was kind of his peak, although he had so many records, and that people have, you know, a lot of taste and opinions on his career, and I'm not that versed in it by any stretch, but, you know, given I played some of this in college, and I played trumpet, you know, it kind of has to go on my list. I don't have any Maynard Ferguson on this list, unfortunately. Maybe on the honorable mentions I'll include that, but he was the other one, but he was kind of like, it's like Benny Goodman doing the trumpet versus, you know, doing the big band stuff, but anyway, number 40, that was number 40, for number 43, now I'm wearing the t-shirt today, Pat Metheny Group, to be more specific, The Way Up from 2005, which is one track, it's like a 40-some-odd minute song, maybe 50 minutes, actually, and I've contended for, basically since the year it came out in 2005, that it meanders at points, it's got moments, but when I saw it live, it was better with the orchestra from St. Cloud State University, at the orchestra hall. That made it better. I still kind of feel the studio version is just, I'd say it's overrated. It's still not bad, but it's not nearly, he did many records that were better, which will be on my list, of course, but still it's a pretty good record, and it's sort of the peak of his sort of progressive rock, really, because that's what it really is. I mean, it's still Pat Metheny, it's Lyle Mays, you know, and they're doing this long, ambitious, sweet piece, you know, called The Way Up. So, number 40, whatever, 44, number 43, rather. Number 42, all right, so we get more, again, we're getting a lot of the same people on this list. This list seems homogenous, you know. Chick Corea and Return to Forever, Light as a Feather. This is the one that followed up the Return to Forever album by Chick. So, this is the one, again, they're still using vocals. Flora's on this, but, and I don't believe, it has 500 Miles High, children's song, Spain. It's great. Everyone knows that. If you know Chick Corea and Return to Forever, you know that track. Don't, 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 don't. It's, you know, that sort of offbeat staccato Latin feel to it. Again, there's not a lot of guitar. Again, you basically stand, it's almost like they were being the bass led, kind of like Weather Report, and from the Weather Report's going to be on here too, but Weather Report, Renaissance, you know, if you take Steve Howe out of Yes in some ways, or Rush without Alex, the bass led guitar parts with Chick's piano and keyboards. So, but 500 Miles High, that I got a compilation from the library. I always think of that song from the compilation. You have the vocals from Flora, but yeah, you know, I don't favor the sort of more Latin acoustic Return to Forever Chick Corea as much as their electric stuff, but still, I gotta hate it to them. There's still some great stuff in there. Anyway, so that's number 40 and 42. That came out in 73, by the way. Number 42. Number 41. All right, so the first appearance of Mr. Al Di Meola, and all the Columbia records are going to be on here in the spoiler alert. So beyond a few other things, but this is his 4th or 5th solo album, Splendido Hotel, a double album, which I like it. It's different than the first 3 in a lot of ways. He even did some vocals on this, but not quite as high, though. It has his shredding still in there, but, you know, it's a little different. It's a little more, like, cinematic, a little poppy at points, more like, you know, but good track, good album, rather, Splendido Hotel from 1980. I forget what the epic, there's one epic on here, Isfahan, and there's parts of that I really like, and it's kind of like a Middle Eastern element to it, but anyway, he was listening to a lot of like Shakti and stuff like that, but Al Di Meola's Splendido Hotel, number 41, 1 from 1980. Number 40. All right. Oops. So this is flamenco, really. I mean, I call it rock flamenco, but it's related because flamenco I consider part of an offshoot of jazz and jazz fusion. Steve Stevens' Flamenco A Go-Go. Really great, energetic album. You know, the guy who played with Billy Idol and everything like that, and it was a David Lee Roth too. He was a hired gun. He was a virtuoso, and you know he was kind of in that same vein of like your Vais and Satriani's. But this is more. This is flamenco. This is more Latin. You know, it's not quite about so much about the shredding. It's more about the textures and the atmosphere and the sort of energy. It's very danceable at times. The title track, Flamenco A Go-Go, is maybe my go-to. So it came out in the year 2000. So when I do 2000, this will be showing up somewhere probably. Steve Stevens, Flamenco A Go-Go, number 40. Number 39. All right, now we get to see the first appearance of one Billy Cobham. Seen live a couple times. Crosswinds. Not his best work, but still among the required listing of Billy Cobham. This has, what is it, side 2? Is it side 2? Side 1? Well, the title track is on side 2. It's the last track, but it's more atmospheric jazz. It's not quite as busy as some of his other stuff, and of course the Mahavishnu stuff, but it's Billy Cobham, and he's just a master musician, virtuoso, and I just love his tone on his snare. I can't remember because I saw him support this tour. John Abercrombie's on this. George Duke, of course, he worked with live at points. John Williams and Garnett Brown. So there's some trombone. Yeah, it's not pure fusion, but because it was post the era of Mahavishnu. It came out in Crosswinds like 73, 74. So, but it's related to fusion enough. So anyway, Billy Cobham's Crosswinds. Number 39. Number 38. Don't have a physical copy. The debut album from the Pneumatic Transit, Concerto for Double Moon. Talked about this. Very much in the Mahavishnu Orchestra and the Mars Volta vein. This was almost entirely instrumental, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, the new record that came out this year, Forbidden Trinket, it's probably getting an honorable mention. It's sort of new. I felt like weird putting it on the list already, but I love this record. The musicianship is great. Great instrumentation. I'm using like flute and trumpet at points, but Jess Sampillo, he was in the Tree of the Tongues record from Exotic Animal Penguin Zoo, but I love the direction he went with the Pneumatic Transit from 2015. Concerto for Double Moon, number 38. Number 37. Again, I don't have the actual disc, but I have the jewel case and booklet. Heavy Weather from Weather Report, the first Weather Report record on this list. Of course, this is known best for their rendition of Birdland, which is the definitive in some ways. It has Jaco Pastorius. You know, it's the classic lineup, even though it had some other people. The lineup with Alfonso Johnson was still good, but Zawano, of course, Wayne Shorter, and yeah, it's beyond even Birdland. It's got, you know, some other tracks that are sort of go-tos. Rumba Mama, The Juggler. I love Zawano's, the textures he used. They're very distinguished from the stuff that Chick did and that Jan Hammer did. He was very, and the way they used the bass, they just, it was like a good way of free jazz. I loved it. Was more jazzy than some of the fusion bands even. So it was more like jazz rock versus rock jazz. I don't know, but anyway, Heavy Weather's their most famous record. Not my favorite, but it's pretty damn close. So from Weather Report, number 37, number 36. So we see Pat Metheny Group again, the 1982 album, Off Ramp, which I love the title track. I've always liked this record, but I've never been obsessed with it. I believe this is the last record with like Steve Gadd and maybe I don't know. Again, the lineup from Pat Metheny would come in and out. Of course, it has Lyle Mays, of course, but Steve Rodby on bass, Dan Gottlieb, not Steve Gadd, Dan Gottlieb, but. Yeah, I mean, it's not the best Pat Metheny, but I like it. I go to this more often than The Way Up and some of his other stuff because it doesn't overstay its welcome more than some of his records. So, but anyway, Off Ramp, number from 1982, number 30, where am I? Number 36. So, number 35, I do have the record. I do have the vinyl. We go back to Weather Report again. Mysterious Traveler from 1974. Which my go-to on this, again, this I think is pre-Jaco. Again, because Jaco wasn't always with them. So I don't know if it was Alfonso's. I went through this in the 74 list, but the title track is on here, Jungle Book. Cucumber Slumber, that's a favorite. That actually is even better live. But again, my favorite parts are probably the keyboard textures from, and then the drum work. The keyboard textures from Zolino, and the drum work from, I'm not even naming the drummer. This says Alfonso Johnson, yeah. Because Short is on there. Miroslav Vitus and Ismail Wilburn. Dom Romeo. Anyway. Mysterious Traveler from 1974. 74? I get the year right on here. Yes, number 35. Number 34. Alright, so then I'm taking a little bit of a liberty with these two. Am I going in the right direction? I'm not off here. Yes. I had a hard time picking, so I just went with both of them as a tie. Both Dean McGraw, I don't have any 8-head, but this is like the next continuation of 8-head in some ways. The Red Planet CDs, the Space Stuff live one, and the Bill Carruthers one. There's some covers, and there's some interpretations of like Little Wing in Africa, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, but it totally reinvents the pieces. And it's Dean McGraw, and he plays some like electric sitar, and Jay Epstein's a freaking beast. He's one of the best drummers I've ever heard. Chris Bates. Dean McGraw's Red Planet, both these albums, they came out collectively in like 2015 and 2017. I forget. May have been a little bit earlier. I don't have the years on these, but maybe I'll 2015. The Bill Carruthers album was 2015, and the Space Dust live album may have been a year or two before that. Actually, it was recorded in 2008. Came out in 2009. This is maybe right after he got better from his, dealing with this unfortunate cancer. But anyway, Dean McGraw's Red Planet, number 34, tied both Red Planet with Bill Carruthers and Space Seed. Number 33, another local Minnesota jazz fusion jazz group, Media Addicts Autonomy. The other one I like a lot elsewhere, which will be in the honorable mentions, but this is their peak. This is their final record. Came out in 2000, I think it was 12 or 13. There's just the riffs on this, the energy. They use great soprano sax, Mr. Nice Guy whimper, Zeitgeist, Pocket Snake. It's like catchy jazz. It's a great combination of musicianship, atmosphere, cool vibes, and it's like every piece goes somewhere. Man, Media Addicts were phenomenal. They just never got the due that they deserved. But anyway, Media Addicts Autonomy from 2012. Number 33. Number 32. All right, now I finally got to this part of my selection. Yes, okay. Casino from Al Di Meola. So I like it more than Splendido Hotel. It does have Egyptian Danza, which is the most notable track, one that Liquid Tension Experiment covered live. It's a continuation. It's a little more ethnic sounding at points, but a continuation of the previous two records. It's a little more Latin. He does a version of Senior Mouse on here too. So anyway, Al Di Meola again. Just his four or five records are required listening, and that includes Casino from 1978 at number 32. Number 31. All right, we see Pat Metheny again. From This Place from the year 2020. Very cinematic. The last great record he's made. I haven't listened to the new one, but Moondial. But yeah, From This Place kind of came on it was like a breath of fresh air. I don't know if technically this is considered... Yeah, this is actually a Pat Metheny solo album, not Pat Metheny group. But I just love the cinematic moment. There's a song called America on here, I believe. That was the first single, which kind of... America Undefined, but... Anyway, yeah, From This Place is just really creative. It's dark in some ways, but the dynamics work only that we know that Pat Metheny does. And it's also something very different for Pat Metheny. I mean, he's done soundtracks, but it sounds different than the Falcon and the Snowman. And anyway, number 31. Number 30, all right. We got Jeff Beck with Jan Hammer Group live, which this includes Earth Still Our Only Home. And Full Moon Boogie, which are two tracks from what we're going to be seeing on number 1, what Jan Hammer did, So, hey, Freeway Jam, I mean, Jeff Beck was more of a blues artist, but he did dabble in jazz, so, I don't get tons of mileage out of this, but, R.I.P. Jeff Beck, it's a great live recording, and it's got some of my favorite jazz fusion music on it, so I had to go on here somewhere. Number 29, rather. I had that wrong. It was number 30, actually. So, number 29... All right, I had to take a little liberty because I forgot when I did the ranking, I didn't have this first one I'm showing. So these two return to Forever Records. Well, they're different lineups. This one has Bill Connors, the only Bill Connors record, Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy. The first one with Al Di Meola. So I mean, it's a tied for 29th or whatever. I've been taking some liberties. This is really like a top 53 jazz fusion records. But the title track, what's it? Songs to the Pharaoh Kings is on this. Again, Vulcan Worlds. That's one of the most known ones. They play that one live. There's a couple others. Beyond the Seventh Galaxy, and then of course the Bill Connors from the year before. So Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy came out. I want to say it was, let's see here, I had the year 73. This was like 74, 75. Al Di Meola was like 19. But Captain Senior Mouse, which, again, some of these pieces they redid in different arrangements. Again, Bill Connors is a different kind of guitarist than Al Di Meola, so you get a different flavor. It's like listening to the different versions of Kevin Gilbert's music. But the Space Circus Suite, Theme of the Mothership, So I don't know as far as, Lenny White was on this one, though. So Lenny was the first maybe album that Lenny White had joined, and then, of course, you had the classic lineup here, the first one with the classic line with Lenny. Stanley Clarke, of course, Al Di Meola, and Chick Corea, Where Have I Known You Before, from 74. So, all right. So that was a tie for 29th or whatever. Okay, so here we go, Mahavishnu Orchestra. Most people prefer this, the second, classic original lineup. Birds of Fire, which, I like this. Got Miles Beyond, which is a tribute to Miles Davis. I like it, but I've never been as, grabbed by it as the previous record. But I still like it. I mean, it's still peak Mahavishnu. One word, Sanctuary. You got Jerry Goodman's on this, of course. I believe, yep. Rick Laird, and, McLaughlin. So, Birds of Fire, number 20... Number 28. Number 27. Alright, so now we got another live album. Friday Night in San Francisco. The guitar trio, in effect. John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola, and Paco de Lucia. So they did some flamenco on here. But Fantasia Suite is great. It's just a fun record. I mean, if you like jazz fusion, you like those bands, if you like flamenco, there's every reason to like this. The jazz is meant to be heard live. A lot of it is, so... Fantastic live record, famous live record from 80, whenever it was, 80, 81? What year did I have that? I think it's 81, yes. So the guitar trio, never can keep my place in this. Number 27. Number 26, alright, so we see the Pat Metheny group, the first Pat Metheny group album, the self-titled album, with Lyle Mays, Mark Egan on bass, and Dan Gottlieb. So Dan Gottlieb was with him for a long time. Of course, Lyle Mays was with him for decades. St. Lorenzo, there's some great tracks on here. I think you started using the Synclavier synths on this. There's a tribute to Jocko, a piece called Jocko on here, April Joy. Yeah, I mean, I like this so much better than Bright Size Life. Everyone loves Bright Size Life, I don't get it, but just for this first side alone, St. Lorenzo and Phase Dance. That's Metheny basically finding his voice. And he released about whatever it was, I'd say at least half a dozen records that, kind of continued that into brilliance. So that's number, what are we at here? Number 26. So now top 25, I don't have a copy of this. Time Out from Dave Brubeck. Of course, everyone knows Take 5. It really sounds like it's in 7, but it's not. It's in 5, but it's an essential jazz record. It kind of changed jazz, basically, before Miles was even doing a lot of that stuff. Using odd times, the odd feel, the staccato, the piano arrangements and the drums, It's a classic. I can't say much more. I'm still really investing more into it, but I've heard it enough to include it on this list, number 25. Number 24, all right. We got another acoustic record collaboration, The Rite of Strings, where we get the reunion of Al Di Meola and Stanley Clarke, and you get Jean-Luc Ponty, violinist who had been with Mahavishnu Orchestra and Frank Zappa and his own solo career, of course. Rite of Strings, great record from 1995, I believe. Yep, I talked about it in the 95 list, but yeah, there's some weird, some odd sort of textures they use beyond being just purely acoustic, but a little flamenco here and there. It's a fun record, and they got a tribute to John Coltrane on here. They all wrote different tracks on it, as you can see, so it wasn't just like one person did all the writing. But Rite of Strings from 1995, number 24, Clarke, Di Meola, and Ponty. Number 23, Black Market from Weather Report. I don't have a physical copy of this, unfortunately, but I've always liked this record. can't off the top of my head, other than the title track. I believe this includes Jocko, though. It may have been the first record with Jocko, so that's part of the importance of Black Market. Number 23 from Weather Report. Number 22, I got Shakti, the debut album from John McLaughlin, collaboration with Zakir Hussain and a couple other guys. But it was a mixture of basically jams, like East Indian jams, Hindustani jams with jazz fusion, acoustic jazz. You know, it was a departure from the Mahavishnu stuff, but in spirit it shared a lot of the sort of where does the music take you in it. You know, it's got the 29-minute track, the last track. This is a mouthful. What need have I for this? What need I have for that? I am dancing at the feet of my Lord. All is bliss. All is bliss. But and the Joy track. Joy is a fantastic. It fits the title. You know, it's a happy, very spiritual track. I mean, I would much rather listen to this than something like Sun Ra. But anyway, remember Shakti from John McLaughlin, of course, with John McLaughlin, Zakir Hussain, on the tablas and the djembe. I believe at least one of the two. Number 22. Number 21, In a Silent Way from Miles Davis. While I like parts of Bitches Brew, I understand the importance of Bitches Brew. Really, In a Silent Way was the birth of fusion to me. And it has like Herbie Hancock. It's got a lot of the main players that Miles recruited. The title track alone is just a word. I mean, it's just 2 tracks, really. It's jams, but it works. It doesn't seem to be. It's more subdued. We feature more just kind of spacious trumpet improvisations. It's not. It doesn't kind of meander as much as I find that with Bitches Brew it does. So anyway, In a Silent Way, number 21. Number 20. All right. So the best thing I think, even though I like his other stuff, Eric Johnson ever did. Electromagnets, this band from the 70s. Kind of a tour de force. I mean, it was definitely taking the torch from, you know, at least Mahavishnu and even Return to Forever at that point. But self-titled album from the Electric Magnets. The first, I think it was one of the first bands that Eric Johnson was in. But I don't know the other guys, but they're all from Texas, I believe. But a couple of the tracks on here are live. They were bonus tracks. But Crusades. I haven't listened to this a long time. Of course, I don't even have the disc. I gotta go on to Spotify and listen. But Electromagnets from Eric Johnson. You know, it was like 76, 75 originally was released. And I need to find the CD. I need to buy it again. But number 20. Number 19. Another Pat Metheny record I do not have. As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita Falls. Which, love Off Ramp, love the Pat Metheny group debut album. But this, I think they went into some more territory I enjoyed. It's not a perfect record, but again, this is Metheny really going at it, going into different textures. The clavier synth comes out at points. Lyle Mays is featured. Kind of the last of that lineup, I think. Around that time, Off Ramp was the next one, I think, but this is 81. A lot of people love this record. Pat Metheny. It's Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays, technically. So, As Falls Wichita, So Falls Wichita Falls, 1981, number 19. Number 18, another CD that I'm missing, but we see Pat Metheny a lot here. Imaginary Day, which has one of my favorite, if maybe not my top 5 Metheny tracks. That's a video for the future. Just do top 5 Metheny tracks. The song Roots of Coincidence. But this has some other tracks, like the title track, Follow Me. This was 1997 when it came out, so it's kind of, again, when he goes at it and goes the sort of textures that work for me, when he's not being too avant-garde, but he's just having that great feel. Pat Metheny is a magician and a master and a savant. And Imaginary Day is among his greatest achievements. It's not necessarily his greatest, but it's close. I know there's some new age elements in a lot of his records, but they don't stand out to me as much as some other records. Like the ones that the new age doesn't get in the way is when it works. And some people can't really get past some of the new age elements, but it's really hit and miss for me when it's great. He's amazing. Number 17, speaking of now, number 18. Number 17, and we're talking more of a follow. I think this might have been the follow-up, Pat Metheny group, Speaking of Now. Which, while I don't have any absolute favorite, this had Richard Bona on the vocals. When I saw him band on Austin Seamless or something like that, something on our PBS affiliate, it kind of made me my jaw drop, like, this guy is unbelievable. He's playing a guitar that sounds like a trumpet. It has songs like Gathering Sky, Proof, the 10-minute, 13-minute tracks, Proof, Wherever You Go. Richard Bona and Quang Vu is an unbelievable trumpet player and a vocalist. Yeah, this is one. I mean, he has had 4 or 5 amazing lineups, Pat Metheny, but this is among his best. Speaking of him now, I like this much better than the album that followed it. You know, of course, The Way Up, the one I'm wearing. I would take this record. I think it's at least a full star better. So, speaking of now, from 2002, number 17 from Pat Metheny Group. So, number 16, I'm just getting into the cream of the crop here. Carmen's Fandango. You know, flamenco fusion of a kind. It has John Glasscock, who'd play with Jethro Tull. The Allen, like a wife and husband-wife duo, although that's not David Allen from Gong, but there's a lot of great rhythms, a lot of danceable Latin melodies on this. Delirious, the title track, Fandangos in Space, Tales of Spain, Looking Outside My Window, it's a sweet, 7-minute suite, bullfight. Yeah, it's like you feel like you're in Mexico or some part of Spain, in Spain where you listen to this. It's great. Carmen, they've had 1 or 2 of the records I've never heard, but this has always been one that I've enjoyed. That's why it goes that high. Flamenco Fusion from 1973, Fandangos in Space. Number 15. So we see Pat Metheny again. This is a homogenous list. Pat Metheny Group, Still Life Talking. There's a couple of fantastic tracks. This has Paul Wertigo, of course, the Imaginary Day. Paul Wertigo is like my favorite drummer ever. At least he's got him and Cobham, it's close, but I've concluded I actually at their greatest I think Paul Wertigo is my favorite. But what is the track, the one epic, Third Wind, I think it is, yeah. And then So May It Secretly Begin, Minuano. Oh man, this is unbelievable. Again, this came out in '87, so it was 10 years before Imaginary Day, but it's like he didn't lose a step. But Steve Rodby on the bass, Lyle Mays, of course. You could just call it the Pat Metheny Group as Pat Metheny, Lyle, and then you know, by committee or something. But they had a vocalist named David Blamires and Mark Ledford, 2 different vocalists, but and some percussion and a vocalist named Armando Silva, 3 singers. But I mean, Paul Wertigo, of course, alone bring this up slightly a notch over some of the other Pat Metheny records. But anyway. And then again, the contradiction between that and Imaginary Day. I mean, they're close. And speaking of now, that doesn't have Paul Wertigo. It has Antonio Sanchez, who I love too, but not Wertigo. Number 15. Number 14. So we got the live Mahavishnu Orchestra album From Nothingness to Eternity, which has some tracks that were reworked, but it has Trilogy, which is a sweet, Sister Andrea, and Dream, which is 20 minutes. I mean, there's a lot of heavy, soft, just you know, McLaughlin just kind of going off, and so you kind of have to go with that's what you get with live jazz and then the fusion at the time. This was recorded in like '72 and it released in '73, but it was right after Birds of Fire. So, but actually the material isn't from Birds of Fire. That's the weird thing, most of it. So Between Nothingness and Eternity, I don't know. I mean, do I listen to it as much as some of the other live albums? Not necessarily, but it depends. There's 1 or 2 live albums I haven't put on this list, so. Between Nothingness and Eternity from Mahavishnu Orchestra, number 14 from 1973. Number 13, Live and Unreleased from Weather Report. This is my favorite Weather Report release because it's live. It's from a couple different eras. It was officially released in 2002. That's why it was called Unreleased. But it's a dream. The drum work is off the charts on this. I was kind of like, I liked Heavy Weather. I had Heavy Weather when I heard this, and I had the CD. I don't know where it is. I probably misplaced. I have to get it again, but get it on vinyl at some point. This is Weather Report at their peak. You know, I mean, I think half of it's with Alfonso and half of it's with Jocko. So, but anyway, my battery's starting to go here. I don't want to lose my battery. Number 13, number 12, another live album. Billy Cobham and George Duke live on tour in Europe. Of course, this features the services of John Scofield and Alfonso Johnson also. All these tracks, I'm pretty sure, were original pieces. Some of them were improvised. There was narration. It's fun. It's funky. It's jazzy. It's melodic. It's psychedelic. They were taking maybe a token from, like, you know, Parliament Funkadelic. I don't know, but anyway, I love this record. I love the artwork. It's my favorite artwork ever. It's really weird and wacky and crazy, but I got George and Billy both to sign it. So live and tour in Europe, 1975. You know, George Duke, of course, have played with Frank Zappa and many others. R.I.P. George Duke. Let's see, where was I? That was number 12. Number 11 All right, so the second album with Al Di Meola and the second classic lineup album, of course, Lenny White, No Mystery from third out. Yeah, second. I don't remember the order here. This came out before their kind of peak, but No Mystery sounds like Kansas to me. That could have been a Kansas piece. A lot of it, and the celebrations. Not No Mystery. Celebration's sweet. That chick must have been listening to Kansas at that point, like Song for America, but it still works. It's just fantastic. The synth arrangement is just amazing on that. It's just a fun ride. But, yeah, I mean, it's more of the same. I guess I like this one slightly more because I've got more mileage out of it over where I've known you before, and, of course, Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy. But soft to funk, you know, it's the Jungle Waterfall. Great record. So that was number 11. Number 10, yeah, that was 75. So the order of where I'd known before. But number 10, Spectrum from Billy Cobham. You know, his best solo record by most. It's got Quadrant 4, Stratus. You know, it's prog electric fusion, but it's great. I gotta get going here because I'm worried about the time, and I just damaged my records in the process. That's not good. Let's see here, number 10. Number 9, Land of the Midnight Sun from Al Di Meola, his debut album. The Wizard, the title track, the Golden Dawn Suite. Great stuff. I mean, you know, he had a ton of more ideas he didn't get out with Return to Forever, and he's really featured. But he has the services of Jan Hammer on here, and I can't remember who the drummer is. It might be Lenny White. It might be... Anyway, he plays a Bach piece on this, of course, The Wizard. Yeah, it's a classic. Again, required listening for Al Di Meola, and it's slightly above some of his other records. Number 9. Number 8. Okay, so I don't have the booklet, but Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. Fat synths, funk fusion, Chameleon, Watermelon Man. This is a trip, and it's the best stuff Herbie Hancock ever did. I mean, he played with Miles, of course. He's had other solo records. One I maybe covered him called Thrust, but this is peak Herbie Hancock. Of course, he had Rocket, which was a hit in the 80s, but that was a dance track, really, but still catchy. But anyway, Watermelon Man, you know, the Sly. This is great stuff. I love the synths, the textures he used, among other things, Herbie Hancock. Headhunters record. I need to get it on vinyl. I need to replace the CD, of course. Number 8. Number 7, The Lost Trident Sessions from Mahavishnu Orchestra, because a lot of the material on this ended up being re-recorded. I fell in love with it. Some of it was on Between Nothingness and Eternity. I know I burned the CD. I don't know if I ever got a physical copy, but it came out in 1999. It's Mahavishnu Orchestra's best studio recordings in some ways. My favorite, at least. Although I'm rating one album above it, but if I had my money, I would probably go to... I've listened to this more, at least. Number 7. Number 6, the peak... The best record from Al Di Meola, Elegant Gypsy. Just by a hair, but Flight Over Rio. Of course, it has Race with the Devil on the Spanish Highway, one of the best guitar riffs ever. Kind of something out of a James Bond film. Elegant Gypsy Suite, Sisters of Brazil, Lady of Rome. It's unbelievable. Again, services of like Jan Hammer, a bunch of other fusion guys. Elegant Gypsy's from 1977. The second record from Al Di Meola. At number 6. Now we're in the top 5, so... As I said, Lost Trident Sessions is the most I've listened to, but this is still probably, it's splitting hairs. Inner Mountain Flame from Mahavishnu Orchestra. New Inward Race is a go-to. This is the classic line, the debut album. Vital Transformation, Dance of Maya. Probably the most influential record, too. Meaning of the Spirits. Anyway, got it signed by Billy. Alright, so just finishing this up, unfortunately. It's the middle of the night here. Inner Mountain Flame was number 5. It's a classic record. New Inward Race. Dean McGraw's band, actually 8 had covered that, among others. Vital Transformation, The Dance of Maya, it's their debut album. It's a classic lineup, of course. Rick Laird, bass, Billy Cobham, drums, John McLaughlin, Jan Hammer, just piano, just any keyboards, and Jerry Goodwin, violins. I got Billy to sign this, Billy Cobham, so. Sorry for the apologies for the quiet, the whispering. So, that was number 5. Number 4. My favorite Pat Metheny group record, Pat Metheny related record, 1984's First Circle, which features the title track, and especially that track is fantastic. It's Paul Vertigo on drums. I think this is the first album of Paul Vertigo, but Yolanda, You Learn. It's one of the most uplifting pieces of music ever recorded. It's so happy and uplifting.
interesting clavier synth patch. It sounds like a trumpet, of course, but Peter Osnar on vocals, Steve Rodby on Steve on bass. Where are the other credits on here? I mean, it's kind of new agey. Photographs from '78. It's kind of new agey, but it's just a magic about this record. Those 2 tracks alone are just fantastic. But the whole thing just flows. I mean, Forward March, If I Could, and the game, and just the drum work is just second to none to me. I've never heard cymbal work this crisp and so precise. I've never heard just the capturing that tone on it, cymbal work that Paul Vertigo did. So yeah, First Circle from 1984, my number one record from 1984 overall, but number 4 on my jazz, mostly fusion jazz rock list. So number 3, of course, the most renowned, famous record from Return to Forever, Romantic Warrior, 1976, the peak of Return to Forever sort of lineup, the peak of jazz fusion in some ways. You compare their lineup here to, you can compare it to Mahavishnu Orchestra, you can compare it to Yes, the peak Yes lineup, or Dream Theater. I mean, all the great players. I mean, Lenny White's fantastic too. He's the weakest link, but he's an amazing drummer himself. But Chick Corea, El Di Meola, yeah, Stanley Clarke. It's the concept album, Medieval Overture, The Sorceress, the title track, Majestic Dance, Duel of the Jester and the Tyrant, Part 1 and 2. I mean, it's like all 5 members are just going at it in a battle, and it's just magic. The concept album is about like a night. I've never really fully read the actual concept, but it's instrumental prog, you could say. I mean, it's in a lot of ways, but anyway, it's super influential, super important. If you listen to one jazz fusion record, this is typically recommended, and it lives up to its reputation when people recommend it. So yeah, I once was in a radio station parking lot outside, and my friends were literally just humming along, air drum, air bass, air keyboard playing along, air guitar playing along to this thing. It's that famous and everything. So anyway, kind of the peak of fusion in some ways. 1976, Romantic Warrior from Return to Forever at number 3. So just to wrap this up, number 2. I don't have on this list, and I don't know, I might include at least one, but this is derived, of course, from band Brand X, Marscape record. Jack Lancaster and Robin Lumley, of course, were under their names, but this is really like pre-Brand X, but it's a concept record of some kind about discovery of Mars, I guess you could say. The Martian Chronicles, probably Ray Bradbury's famed science fiction story, and then they adapted it for a miniseries with Bernie Casey and Rock Hudson, among some others. But I love this thing so much. My friend played the whole thing on the radio. It's like 40 minutes, but so many sad moments, so many beautiful sort of textures with the keyboards. I mean, was it John Goodsall? Robin Lumley, I think, did a lot of the keyboards, but John Goodsall plays the guitar, I guess. But Phil Collins, of course, it says Philip Collins on here, but yeah, there's some voices from Bernie Frost, but it's just chanting. But it's just a flowing cinematic masterpiece. I don't know if there's the soundtrack to a film that's made. You could maybe sync it up with the Martian Chronicles, but or some other Mars-based. Talks about the Olympus Mons is one of the tracks. It's about a volcano on Mars, but arrival sail on solar winds. With a great feeling of love. It's gorgeous. It's a masterpiece. I mean, I'm in awe of it every time I listen to it. R.I.P. John Goodsall, Percy Jones, of course. I mean, again, other than Jack Lancaster, they did Peter and the Wolf the year before or something. This was like '76, also same year that Romantic Warrior came out. 2 of the most amazing jazz fusion records that came out that year. But this was the soundtrack to Peter and the Wolf had its moments. This was they hit on all cylinders on this, and of course they would do the Brand X stuff after this without Lancaster. But I've never been fully obsessed with Brand X, but with this sucker, oh man. I mean, Phil's drumming's great too, but I mean, it's really the guys Lancaster and Lumley who are, I look at the most responsibility with how this came out so amazing marscape. So it's like libraries and stuff like that. So that's number 2. Number 1, the derived, after Modern Fishing Orchestra broke up, Jerry Goodman and Young Hammer's collaboration, which that includes Rick Laird, Modern Fishing Orchestra's Rick Laird on bass, Like Children. Country and Eastern music is a tour de force. It's funky and fast and so playful. They do some vocals on that track. It's very hippie-ish, but it's in a cool way. Stepping Tones was a song they did on the last training sessions with McLaughlin, but of course there's no John McLaughlin as you look here. Like, Jan played the guitar, and Jerry Goodman played some guitar, and Jan played the drums. But this has always been a special record since I heard it 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago. Even though it's, songs that Modern Fishing Orchestra were working on, pieces, it's just, Jerry Goodman, Jan Hammer, the production's amazing. Full Moon Boogie, Earth Still Our Only Home, those were done live with Jeff Beck. Jan Hammer did those. I Wonder, it's like this walking, do No Fear, Night. I just, this is a fantastic record, despite the fact it doesn't have one of the primary members of Modern Fishing Orchestra. I think that their compositions were even better than they came up with on, well, you could say Birds of Fire, but even Earmont and Flame. But, I love the stuff on Between Nothing and Eternity, but it's like, for some reason it's like less is more, and it works on this record really well. The drum production's great. The guitars are perfectly placed. Everything's perfectly placed and composed on this record, and a lot of people love it. A lot of people don't know, and they think, well, but it's not with McLaughlin, but it doesn't matter to me. So, but yeah, so Like Children from Jerry Goodman and Jan Hammer, number 1, my favorite fusion jazz related record at this point. So that's it. What are your top 10 or 15 and jazz, fusion jazz related record? I guess that I'll try to make, and I don't know, mention sometime next week. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.